Hi students, it's Donna, the tutor. I want to talk to you today about a reading strategy for figurative language. So today we're going to interpret figurative language. So I say it with a picture because we want to create a picture in our readers' minds, or the text that we're reading should create a picture in our minds as we read. So what is figurative language? Here are some examples. If you've ever heard someone say, "You've bitten off more than you can chew," or then this person is using figurative language with you. So figurative language is a way that we can use words that are different from what they usually mean. So this sentence here, it's not really talking about anything that you're eating. It's nothing that you're biting into, and it's nothing that you're chewing. So read this sentence. You'll have to work very hard to get that floor clean. Now we can have this next sentence here uses different words, but it has the same meaning as the previous sentence here. You'll have to use a lot of elbow grease to get that floor clean. So in this context though, this working very hard, it doesn't really have anything to do with elbows, and there's no grease involved. There's no such thing really as elbow grease, not a literal meaning. So this is all figurative or all imaginary. Think of it that way. So we use figurative language to help us create mental images, mental pictures in our minds so that we can understand something. So with this sentence before, we have to work very hard to get the floor clean. If we have to use a lot of elbow grease, this means that we're pushing our arms back and forth. So we're working hard, or we're bending our arms and sometimes our other parts of our body in order to clean something. So that's what elbow grease means. It means using your arms to scrub or to clean. Which is much more interesting to say it that way than to work very hard. So context clues help us understand what the figurative language means. Read this passage here and see if you can understand what the underlined phrase means, rolling in the aisles. Okay, so let's think about what the phrase rolling in the aisles means. So it's not literal, remember that. This is figurative language. So no one is actually getting out of their chair and rolling around in the aisles or the rows between chairs. So let's look at the context clues. So if we read the sentences before that phrase and afterward, that will help us to understand what this phrase might mean. Look carefully at the sentences before and after. Things turned comical as they chased him, meaning the little boy, across the stage, knocking over the props while the boy shouted, "Ha ha! You can't catch me!" The audience was rolling in the aisles. They finally got the boy off the stage and tried to continue, but by now even the actors were giggling. So earlier when I said they chased him, I mean the other actors chased the boy across the stage. So we have some key words here. We have comical, we have haha, and we have giggling, all to help us understand what rolling in the aisles means. So think about that. Now we have an idea that turning comical or giggling might mean that the audience members were laughing. And that's exactly what rolling in the aisles means. It means that the people were laughing. And in this case, they were laughing so hard, probably their bodies were moving. So we even use that expression just to mean in general that we were laughing very hard. There are many types of figurative language, but the three that we'll focus on here will be a simile, a metaphor, and an idiom. So a simile compares two different things using the word like or as. So in this context, the sentence, Rico's face turned as white as snow. I'm comparing Rico's face and snow. And a metaphor is another type of figurative language. This one also compares two different things, but it doesn't use the word like or so. So a metaphor often represents an idea using figurative language. So in this sentence here, Amy is a walking encyclopedia. The two things that are being compared are Amy and encyclopedia. So I'm using a metaphor to show how smart Amy is, because an encyclopedia is a book that has a lot of information. So it's just an interesting way to show us how smart Amy is. An idiom also gives us information, but it doesn't compare things, not directly. We use a different set of language that has a different meaning than the words separately would mean. So the phrase itself has another context. So for example here, Mel passed the test by the skin of his teeth. So we know that there's no skin on our teeth. It's just enamel. But what we mean by this phrase is that it was very close margin that this person passed this test. So this is an idiom. This is a phrase that is meant to represent another thing. So similes, metaphors, and idioms are, as I said, different types of figurative language. There are many other types of figurative language, but I'd want to focus on just these for now. We use these types of figurative languages to create some type of image or picture within the reader's mind to make it more vivid, to make it more colorful, so that that person can easily see what we're trying to describe. So sometimes to look for these examples, try to find examples of similes or metaphors in the text by looking for words like or as to find the similes. To find metaphors, try to think about what this phrase might try to represent. And for idioms, try to think about what are they really trying to say with this strange phrase that's being used in the text. Strange meaning unfamiliar to you. But all figurative language is meant to do is bring that mental picture to the reader. So let's read this speech by Martin Luther King called I Have a Dream. This speech was delivered in 1963. It's one of the most important speeches, text in American society. So here is a YouTube site that you could go and watch the speech in its entirety or most of it. I would encourage you to look at this YouTube site as well as others that would help bring the speech to a bit more life for you. But our focus today is the metaphors that he uses, the figurative language. So as we read, or as we read that text, we should think about what these phrases mean. Promissory note, and whether it's a simile, a metaphor, or an idiom, one of those three figurative language types that we looked at, and also the same for bad check. So what do these phrases mean, and what kind of figurative language are they? So both of them are metaphors. They represent an idea. What idea is King trying to represent to us? So if we think about those phrases, promissory note and bad check, what they mean in relation to figurative language. Here is King's speech again, at least this paragraph again. And with the phrase promissory note, he's referring to a promise that was made to the American people. So promissory note is another phrase, would be a loan. Today we would call it a loan, but it can also be called a promissory note. The legal document is a promissory note. And later when he uses the phrase bad check, he means that this promissory note, this promise was not upheld. It was not kept. And so that's what he means later by yet another metaphor that has come back marked insufficient funds, meaning that there was not enough funds, not enough money in the account for this check that was written to the American people. Again, all within this metaphor that King is using. So if we focus on figurative language, we're thinking about what the ideas represent within the larger context. So this is a very heavy subject that King is dealing with, and that's why he uses metaphors and other figurative language throughout the text. So I would encourage you to read the speech and to listen to a recording of the speech. I hope you've enjoyed today. Thank you.